Well, hello, and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show with me, Andrew Eborn. Who else? Well, today we're going to go on a very special journey because on the 8th of January 1935, Elvis Presley was introduced to the world. He would have been 90 this very week. The very king of rock and roll. He didn't just make music, he changed the world with it. Glorious, glorious artist, the king of rock and roll, the king of everything, really. And to celebrate his what would have been his 90th birthday, I'm delighted to be joined by the preeminent Elvis impersonator, Elvis Shmelvis. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Andrew. How you doing?
I'm doing very, very well indeed. Well, let's start with you because you call yourself the preeminent Elvis impersonator. How did you get started?
Well, it all started in 1990, which seems like an awful long time ago now. But I mean, I've always been a singer and a guitarist and a trumpet player. I've always loved music. For many years, I was in various bands and I was in orchestras and brass bands as well, actually. But also, I was playing guitar in bands. I was playing bass in bands. In 1990, I joined a rather large computer company called McDonnell Douglas. And on day one, they sent me out with another engineer to go and learn the ropes, to go and do a couple of jobs. And in the car, obviously, we were talking. It turned out we both sang, we both played guitar. So in no time at all, we thought we'd form a little duo. And we did because he had connections with working men's clubs and that kind of thing. So we started doing working men's clubs and pubs and birthday parties. And he was a huge Elvis fan, so he sang all the Elvis stuff and leaving me to sing, the Beatles and the Stones, all that sort of stuff. And then slowly, bit by bit, I started copying him and doing Elvis. And after a while, it turned out I was a better Elvis than he was. So I then started doing I bought this ridiculously stupid wig
Right.
and a pair of sunglasses, and I went out in the audience and started doing all the Elvisy things, which now, I mean, thinking back, it makes me cringe. But I did, and it seemed to be very popular. So I then started doing my own Elvis shows. When I wasn't with the band, I was doing Elvis shows, and in no time at all, the Elvis shows got more popular than the band.
Right.
So at a certain point, I think it was about 2000, no, about nine, yeah, about 2002, I think it was. I gave notice to my friend saying, I could earn good money doing just the Elvis, and why go out on a Saturday night for X when I can go out on a Saturday night for 4X?
Oh, absolutely. And several pints of
Yes.
that. So tell me, I mean, talk about the first gig. I mean, going out as Elvis on the first time. What was that first gig and how's your act evolved since then?
My first gig on my own was in a Chinese restaurant in Luton,
Hey,
of all the places. And I got changed in the back of the store cupboard. And when I went to get changed, there was a handful of people there. When I came out, it was like facing the paparazzi. I came out, and all of a sudden, there was crowds of people round, all with their cameras. And I thought, oh my God. And I came out, and they're applauding and shouting and jumping up and down and whooping and everything. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. Obviously, they all sort of filed and shuffled in while I was getting changed. And it was phenomenal. And then the restaurant booked me again because it went down so well. And I started doing other restaurants. And I got booked for private parties. And so it went on and on and on.
and it is extraordinary, isn't it? Because there is Elvi, if that's the plural of Elvis,
Yes, it is.
around the world. And there's a Chinese Elvis as well, and there's a few Indian ones, and they have conventions. Do you go along to those conventions?
Well, to be honest, I don't want to put anyone or anything down here, but I went to a couple of conventions in the very, very early days, and I didn't really enjoy it. It was full of very, very bad Elvises. I mean, there were some good ones as well, but it's full of very, very bad Elvises. And to be fair, I was probably one of those bad ones at the very, very beginning, although I've always been able to sing. But it was basically these conventions are fine if you're really into them. But to me, it's just 600 Elvises all trying to out Elvis each other. And I'm just not interested really. I'd rather go out and earn some money singing, So
It is glorious. Well, it is wonderful thinking of the phenomenal legacy and things like that. Why do you think Elvis appeals to people still to this very day?
it's a question that gets asked many times. I think he's just got universal appeal. I mean, he appeals to the kids because he was cool then. He's still cool now. But the main reason why he was so popular, I think, is because he crossed all genres. I mean, he didn't just sing rock and roll. He sang ballads, he sang gospel, he sang a bit of jazz. He just sang everything. So he appealed to everybody. And although in the very early days, obviously the parents of these kids say, "Oh, you mustn't watch Elvis. You know, he's swinging his hips. That's too sexual," which is ridiculous when you think of what they have on TV now. But he just appealed to everybody and still does. And even, I mean, I can do gigs now, and you've got the young kids mouthing Suspicious Minds back to me as I'm singing it, which is phenomenal. But you've also got, the old grannies that, oh, I bought all Elvis's records back in the 50s and I loved him then. I'm still loving him now. And even now they still show Elvis films on TV, and they wouldn't do that unless they knew that it was still very, very popular. And as I walk down the street, people say, "Oh, Elvis, love your sideburns," and all that sort of stuff. So it's still instantly recognizable, and I think it always will be.
Right. No, absolutely. And when we look at the phenomenal success that he enjoyed, he had what 149 songs on the US Billboard, and the Hot 100 pop chart, including 18 number ones. I think his number one single spent 80 weeks, 80 weeks at the top. He also won 3 Grammys and received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. But as you say, he also transcended into film as well. Do you have a favorite film of his?
My favorite film is Blue Hawaii, basically because there's only one song I don't like in it. There's about 20 songs in it, and there's only one that I don't like, but the rest of them are just really, really good songs. And normally, if you get a musical, you'll get, one or two or maybe three really good songs from it, and the rest are kind of filler songs. But in Blue Hawaii, they're virtually all really, really good songs, and that's why you can watch the movie over and over again. And you sing along to it. It's just lovely. I mean, there are some other very, very good movies as well. Elvis hated making them, of course, but a lot of people love watching them. So,
So why did he hate making them so much?
because while he was making them, he was basically out of the public eye. Although he came very much back into the public eye when the films were released, he was out the picture for a couple of years while making movies. And of course, the same thing happened, of course, when he was in the army. He spent a couple of years in the army, and while he was in the army, along came the Beatles, along came the Rolling Stones, and along came lots of other bands. And then when he came out the army, he thought to himself, well, hang on a minute, am I still popular? Have I been forgotten about? Have I been overtaken by the Beatles and the stuff? And that's why he put on this 1968 comeback special, which was basically the first ever unplugged concert, to see if people still liked him. And my God, they still liked him.
Well, and it is extraordinary, a testament to his popularity that his home, Gracelands, is still one of the most visited homes in the US. He bought Gracelands, I understand, in 1957 for the princely sum of $102,500. He's also a seventh-degree black belt in karate. Do you share those skills?
No, I don't. I've got a third-degree black belt in origami.
I thank you. All the good stuff. And he recorded it. He recorded his first song at the age of 18 for $4. Extraordinary. What do you? I mean, do you know much of the history of Elvis? Is that something that you do when you're preparing for your tribute act?
I actually do know a bit of the history. Well, quite a bit of the early history because I'm actually doing a show called Elvis Was Jewish. Because his great great grandmother on his mother's side was a Jewish Lithuanian immigrant. And in Jewish law, if your mother's Jewish, then you're Jewish. So her name was Martha Tackett. She had a daughter called Octavia Love Smith. So she was Jewish. She had a daughter called Gladys Love Smith. So she was Jewish. She had a son called Elvis Presley. So he was born Jewish. Although clearly he wasn't brought up in the Jewish faith.
Oh, you seem to have frozen. You froze just a moment there. Is that it was a poignant pause where you sort of had a little bit of a freeze where you said he wasn't brought up in the Jewish faith, and then there was that pregnant pause. Just dramatic effect.
No, he clearly wasn't brought up in the Jewish faith. He went to church regularly. He was a regular churchgoer. He sang gospel music. But strangely enough, he did know about his Jewish roots. His mother mentioned it to him and told him a bit of the history. And also, she told Elvis not to mention it to his father because he was a bit of an anti-Semite, apparently. So he didn't really know about it. But when Elvis's mother passed away, he actually had a Star of David put on the gravestone. Now, if anyone then looks up Elvis's mother's gravestone and sees there isn't one with it on, I can explain that as well. When she was first buried, there was a Star of David on there, but then a few years later, she was basically reburied at Gracelands because she wasn't originally buried at Gracelands, but she was reburied at Gracelands, and they changed the headstone. But if you do a search on Google Images for Gladys Presley headstone, you will see a picture of the original one, and there's a crucifix on one side and there's a Star of David on the other side. Now, interestingly enough, in the 70s, Elvis wore a crucifix and a Star of David at the same time. And someone once said to him, "Why do you wear both?" And his answer was, "I don't want to miss out on heaven on a technicality."
Glorious. Tell me how he met Colonel Tom Parker. How did that come about?
Well, you can if you watch the Elvis movie with Austin Butler, you'll see that basically they I mean, how true that is, I don't actually know, but they met at a very, very early age, and he basically took Elvis from a local nobody. Well, he was a local somebody, obviously, but a local person that wasn't very, very well known into this massive superstar. And it started off with Colonel Tom Parker. He was actually an illegal immigrant. He was considered an alien, which meant that he couldn't actually leave the United States. So all throughout his connection with Elvis, all his concerts were in the US. And he basically told Elvis that he's not allowed to go abroad. But of course, in the 70s, now I heard this story from Elvis's suit maker, who knew Elvis very, very well. In the 70s, Elvis realized that he had a massive following abroad and wanted to do a tour. And Colonel Tom Parker said, "No, we're not leaving the States." Now, there are two reasons, apparently, why he told he couldn't leave the States. One, Tom Parker didn't have a passport, so although he would probably be allowed to leave the US, he wouldn't be allowed back in. But also, Elvis basically, he always carried a pistol in his boot, because in America you were allowed to do it, and he thought someone might try and assassinate him, so he always kept this pistol in his boot. He was told that if he went abroad to Europe, he wouldn't be allowed to carry a gun. Now, whichever of those stories you want to believe true is up to you. But as I said, in the late 70s, Elvis decided he wanted to actually do a European tour, and he had plans to ditch the Colonel, take up a new manager, and then tour Europe. And his suit maker, Bill Ballou, actually built a brand new suit for him. It was known as the laser suit, and it was a white suit with laser generators built into the suit. And the idea was he came out on a black stage, all the lights out, he presses the button, all these lasers start firing out of his suit. Sadly, before any of that happened, Elvis died. And apparently the suit has never been found.
Oh no!
So,
Well, there's an opportunity for you. You're going to get your own
exactly.
laser-made suit.
Someone somewhere has got this priceless laser suit that Elvis never wore.
I'll tell you what, if ever anything can happen, it will happen here on the Andrew Eborn Show. If somebody does have access to that suit, do get in touch. Are you a similar size to Elvis? Would you be able to fit in that suit when it was done?
I'm actually a little bit bigger than Elvis because a few years ago I was asked to model one of Elvis's leather jackets in
Right.
London for the press, and I put it on, and it was a bit tight for me. And that's before I put on a little bit of weight as well. So although Elvis was about 6 foot tall, I'm 5'11". We're
Right.
similar heights, but obviously my chest is a little bit bigger than his was,
Yeah.
and it was a bit tight. But I mean, I could probably squeeze into it. Yes.
Well, we'll certainly give it a go or get one made, get a new one made. What I loved about Tom Parker, one of my favorite things about him, he was brilliant at molding Elvis's career. And there was a concert where they had buttons saying, "I love Elvis," and they were being sold really by the bucket load. But he was also selling buckets saying, "I hate Elvis." And he was asked about this, and he was told, "Well, I want to make sure that I keep both sides happy because I make money from both."
That sounds like him, actually. He was a very, very ruthless businessman. I mean, he was phenomenally successful. But although he took Elvis from a kind of small town singer to this global superstar, I don't think he was a very nice man. He was more interested in himself. I mean, he made as much money out of Elvis as Elvis did. But he certainly overworked Elvis back in Vegas. I mean, Elvis was doing so many shows. and it just, I wouldn't say the show's killed him, but the show's put him in a bad state of health, really. And Elvis declined from the mid 70s to 77 was, I think, a lot down to the Colonel. Obviously, a lot of it down to his lifestyle as well. But then his lifestyle was also a knock-on effect from the treatment that he got from the Colonel. Having said that, without the Colonel's input, we may never have heard of Elvis Presley.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's always that balance and sort of lessons to be learned for those in the public eye because they often
Yeah.
have this. And actually, what and as a personality, aside away from the spotlight, what was he like as a man?
I think he was a very, very kind man. He gave so much away to so many people. He would literally give Cadillacs to people walking down the street. If you like the look of them, he'd say, here's the keys, take my Cadillac, it's yours. Um, and when I actually had dinner with Elvis's suit maker, Bill Ballou, a few years ago before he died. And he said that Elvis just gave him a Mercedes sports car. He said, I love this suit. Thanks very much. Have a Mercedes sports car. And he would give a lot away. He was very, very generous. I think he was a very quiet man behind the scenes. He liked his women, obviously. He had lots of them. On the film sets, he apparently had lots of affairs while he was away from Priscilla. Again, we don't know that for sure, but there's a lot of proof to say that he did. I think he was a very lonely man as well, because a lot of his, I mean, he didn't have many friends, but a lot of his Memphis Mafia, um, basically in his inner circle, they were kind of yes men. They would do anything for Elvis just to be close to Elvis. His bodyguards stabbed him in the back after he died and came out with a lot of books and things that basically didn't do Elvis any favors. So he didn't have many genuine friends, I don't think. But he was surrounded by these people who, if Elvis told a joke, they would just laugh, whether it's funny or not. So I think he was a nice, kind, quiet, but a little bit lonely.
Yeah, and I think that's true of so many sort of people in the public eye. They get very suspicious of people after a while, don't they? Because they're surrounded. You think, well, why are they coming and being so nice and laughing at all my jokes and things like that? What do they want? So, do you think he was quite insecure as a person then?
Um, Possibly. I insecure. I'm not sure insecure is the right word, because in his music and his performances, he was the most secure person around. I mean, he knew what he could do. He knew the effect that wiggling his finger would make to women, and just a quick shuffle of his hips and it would drive women wild. So I think he knew what he had. But privately, you'd have to ask Priscilla, I suppose. She's still alive. Not many of the Presley clans are alive now. But I'm not sure insecure is the right word, but there is another word, and I'm not sure. I have to get my thesaurus out.
Yeah, no problem. We talk about the music for a moment. What are some of your favorite Elvis songs and why?
Um, well, Elvis recorded 749 songs. So there's a huge back catalogue to choose from. Um, Performance-wise, I love singing the ballads. As I'm getting older, my knees are getting weaker. So the rock and roll stuff and the ones that require lots and lots of movement are getting more difficult. I still do them, but as I do a knee movement, I think, wow, that hurts, as I keep a smile on my face. So I really love the big ballads like The Wonder of You and If I Can Dream and Let It Be Me and Kentucky Rain and these really big power ballads. Having said that, there's so many really nice songs for the movies as well that people tend to either not know or they forget about. They see the movie and they, oh, that's a nice song, but because it's not one of his big hits, they just move on to, everyone says, oh, Blue Suede Shoes and Suspicious Minds and The Wonder of You and In the Ghetto. They're all nice songs, but they kind of become very cliche. Every gig I do, people say, "Oh, play Suspicious Minds." Okay, I have to do Suspicious Minds. It's the most well-known Elvis song ever. I don't particularly enjoy it because I've sung it, so many thousands of times, and I do the live version. So towards the end, it's just all this the whole time, and the legs and the arms. And as I said, as I'm getting older, by the time I finish Suspicious Minds, I need oxygen, you know. So, but there's lots of the early rock and roll stuff, like, you know, Blue Moon of Kentucky is nice, and all these early bluegrass songs. My favorites are probably things like The Wonder of You and If I Can Dream, um, and some of the songs of the movies, like Pocket Full of Rainbows from GI Blues is just beautiful.
Right.
So many, but every time you ask someone what's their favorite song, they'll come out and say something that
And,
you
and,
either
and Elvis, he could basically have sung the telephone directory and people would have loved it, wouldn't it?
you could. But I mean, he sang opera as well. You know, he sang opera and ballads and gospel and rock and roll. He just sang everything. So to choose one or two is very, very difficult. And of course, as I hear new songs, because he recorded 749 songs. Everyone thinks that I'm, you know, this massive expert and I'm not. Every time I do a gig, I meet someone that knows more than I do. They say, "Oh, can you sing such and such a song?" And I'm thinking, actually, I've never heard of that before. Oh, it's from this movie. It's the bit where he does that, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if you say so.
Yeah.
I don't know every single Elvis song. I don't know anyone that does know every single Elvis
Right.
song. There will be someone out there somewhere that will ask for a song that I've never heard of.
Right. Well, there's the challenge. But we're going to be having, we're going to drip feed some of the greatest hits of Elvis, and you're going to kindly perform them for us over this week as we celebrate what would have been his 90th birthday. And now you yourself, you've appeared on numerous TV shows. Which has been the most memorable and challenging for you?
Um, the best was probably Sunday Night at the Palladium because it's Sunday Night at the Palladium. It's, you know, one of the biggest shows in the world. That was interesting. I enjoyed doing Holby City because I just love being in TV shows, and I was on set the whole day, and we were green screened as well. Which I've got my own studio with a green screen, but I went there and saw their green screen, and it was a great learning experience for me at the time. I was in a few episodes of Holby. I just loved being it, you know, with all these famous actors and hanging out with them. It was just a lot of fun. But I've done so many shows. I mean, I've done Talk TV, of course, which is
Ah, yes.
wonderful.
Well, we were doing the James Whale show. Good old James Whale. We
Indeed,
both did the Christmas
indeed.
special for that, which was lovely.
Yeah, so I think Holby and Sunday Night at the Palladium was two of my favorite ones. Of course, at the Palladium, I was hanging out with Earth, Wind and Fire and Maroon 5 and people like that, which was just awesome.
It's good.
Um,
So, is that your proudest moment as an Elvis tribute?
Probably my proudest moment, I think, was in 2002 when I went from someone just singing in a local curry house to suddenly stepping out on Milton Keynes Bowl to 30,000 people. Because Elvis had this hit called A Little Less Conversation. And we actually knew one of the guys at the local radio station a few weeks, well, we knew him years before, but a few weeks before the actual event, they were publicizing it. Then Little Less Conversation came out, and I was actually having dinner with this radio presenter, and my wife said to him, "How are we going to get Martin on onto the Milton Keynes Bowl gig?" Uh, joke. Well, I thought she was joking; she was being quite serious, and I said, "Well, you have to ask Andy, I suppose." So next thing I know, we're having dinner with them, and she said, "Can we get him on there?" And he said, "Well, I'll put you in touch with the person organising it because it was organised through the radio station." So next thing I know, we got a phone call and they said, "Can Martin sing A Little Less Conversation?" Because Elvis is in the charts now. And I'm thinking, I've never heard of it before, but my God, I'm going to learn it. So I did. And on the 16th of June, 2002 was the very day it went to number one. And that was the day of the concert. And I walked on stage from basically a nobody walks on stage to 30,000 people going, you know, "Hello, Milton Keynes."
Oh,
And it was just amazing. And so many people say, "Was I nervous?" And no, I absolutely loved every second of it. And I sang A Little Less Conversation, and I sang, I think it was Can't Help Falling in Love. But the awful thing about it is in the early days, I was wearing a homemade jumpsuit and this really awful wig because I had very short blonde hair. I was wearing this really stupid wig and sunglasses, and looking back, I mean, I thought I looked fantastic. Looking back, I looked terrible. And the thing was actually videoed as well. And I've got the videotape, and I can't watch it. It looks so awful. But from my point of view, when I was performing, obviously I can't see myself. It was fantastic. And I came off stage, and there was a whole load of people crowding around me for have my pictures taken with me, get my autograph, and it was just like being a real rock star. So that was my introduction to the big scene, really. So yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing.
Glorious stuff. I mean, you've had a rich career portraying Elvis. How's it influenced your own personal life?
Well, it's made me earn a lot more money than if I kept my job at the time. So it meant I could move into a very nice house in St Albans, have a very nice lifestyle. I don't have to get up early in the mornings anymore. I can get up whenever I feel like it. I only have to report to one boss now, and that's the wife, who's also my manager. She actually gave up her job to run the business. So she does that and she gets me all the gigs. We can't rely on agents because if you rely on agents, you'll starve. So she's out there getting me gigs. Although now, I mean, the gigs is pouring anyway because people know who I am. But in the early days, back in 2002, I gave up my job to be Elvis, and she gave up her job to run the business, and it's worked very, very well for us.
Very good. I
So
mean,
how's it affected me? It's given me a very, very nice lifestyle. Thank you very much, Mr. Presley.
fantastic. And looking back at that rich career, if you giving yourself advice or anybody starting out in the industry, what bit of advice would you give?
I would originally say don't give up the day job until you know absolutely certain that you're going to make it work. Because I don't know if I was just very skilled or just very lucky or a combination of the two, but I had a very, very good job. I was a senior manager for a computer company. I had the company BMW and the Booper and the whole works, and I gave it all up to be Elvis. But I jumped ship just at the right time. I think there are an awful lot of very struggling, very hungry artists and if you decide that's what you want to do and you don't follow any other career path, it could work out very badly for you. So I would say keep it all as a sideline until you know it's going to work, then give up the day job and then let it work for you.
Great
That's the
stuff.
advice that I'll give to myself. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened to me, and it worked. So
Yeah.
that is the advice I'll give to young people.
Brilliant. As you say, we're going to drip feed some of Elvis's greatest hits over this week, celebrating his birthday. How are you going to celebrate the 90th on the 8th of January?
I'm actually been asked to perform at the London Arches next to London Bridge, and it's a huge corporate event space. And for the last few weeks, I mean, they had the Elvis exhibition there last year, which was huge. They've now got a big Marilyn Monroe exhibition, and I have been there, and it's fantastic. You can spend hours there looking at all the, well, basically the whole history of Marilyn Monroe. And they've got loads of artifacts and their clothing and all sorts of stuff of hers. And they've got a concert space as well with a nice stage and spotlights and sound system. And I've been asked to perform an Elvis show there. So it's on the 8th of January. And here's the great thing. If you like Marilyn as well, the Marilyn exhibition, it's about £25 to get into the Marilyn exhibition. But tickets for my show are, wait for it, £25.
Hey,
And if you get a ticket to my show, you get a free entrance into the Marilyn
good
exhibition.
heavens.
So you can pay the £25, you go to the Marilyn exhibition for a couple of hours, and you see my show for free. So
Brilliant.
it's great. Or if you just want to see my show, it's £25, but then you see the Marilyn exhibition for free. So whichever way you want to look at it, it's a double whammy.
And tickets are still available.
They have sold quite well so far, but there are still some available.
Fantastic. Press
Yeah,
that button now. As soon as this goes out, I can
exactly.
guarantee it will be sold out. Now, I did mention that we're going to be having a few songs a little bit later on. But to finish this particular section, we talked about you're doing a little medley of some of your favorites. You say you don't go anywhere without your guitar. So you've got that all lined up as well.
I
So to
have.
play us out, we're going to have 5 minutes of your favorite Elvis Presley. This is Martin Diaz, Elvis Shmelvis, playing us out. Take it away.
Well, it's the one for the money, two for the show. Really get it ready now. Go, get go, but don't you step on my blue suede shoe. You can do anything to lay off of my blue suede shoe. We can burn the house, steal the car. I drink a while, liquor for my own job. Do the thing that you want to do. Honey, lay off my shoes, and don't you step on my blue suede shoe. You can do anything but lay off of my blue suede shoe. Well, suede shoe, suede shoe. Sing along, Andrew. Well, suede shoes, suede shoes. Sweet shoes, sweet blue suede shoes. You could do anything, but I hung my blue suede shoes. Well, bless my soul, what's wrong with me? I think you're like a man on a fuzzy tree. Friends say I'm acting wild as a bug. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Hey, hey, yeah. Oh, my hands are shaking and my knees are weak. I can't seem to stand on the beat. Who do you think of when you have such luck? I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Hey, hey, yeah. Well, my tongue gets tired when I'm trying to speak. I can start shaking like a leaf on a tree. There's only one cure for the body of mine. Have to have that girl that loves so fine, and you touch my hand. What did you like? My lips are like a volcano top. And I'm proud to say that you my buttercup. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Oh, hey, hey, yeah. Well, please don't ask me what's on my mind. I'm a little bit slow, but I feel fine when I'm ready to go. Well, I'm better. My heart beats slow. It scares me to death when you touch my hand. What did you like? My lips are like a volcano top. And I'm proud to say that you my buttercup. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Oh, oh, hey, hey, yeah. Oh, oh, hey, hey. I'm all shook up. You want more?
I'll go on. Give us one more. One more.
Well, what was that?
Yes.
I know what I do. Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? Does your memory stray to a bright summer day when I kissed you and called you sweetheart? Do the chairs in your parlor seem empty and bare? Do you gaze at your bald head and wish you had hair? Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight?
Brilliant. We should finish on a happy birthday to Elvis being the 90th. So let's finish this particular section on give us a bit of happy birthday to Elvis.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Elvis. Happy birthday to you.
Hey, there you go. Poppers and everything. It's all good stuff. Just remind people, Martin, how they can come and see you.
The London Arches on the 8th of January. I think the show starts about 7:30, but you can get into the exhibition for Marilyn Monroe free. So come a couple of hours early, see the Marilyn exhibition, come and see my show. London Arches on the 8th of January.
Brilliant stuff. And Martin will be back with us, as I say, doing more Elvis throughout the week as we celebrate what would have been Elvis's 90th birthday. But for now, Martin Diaz, Elvis Shmelvis, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Nice to see you.